Hello everyone, I am back from my vacation and it is time to have our channel update for February. The vacation was fantastic and I will talk about it in a moment, but before we do that, just to quickly recover what's going on with the channel. Of course, we've got our Crusader Kings 2 Jade Dragon Aladdin campaign going. Before I went on vacation, I actually tried to finish up the entire campaign, but I did not have time to do so. But that actually ended up meaning that the point when we get to the post-vacation videos is still a ways off. So we've got a little ways before, while we're still on the pre-vacation recording. So if you like the Christmas music, you've got more of that in February. Yeah. Dragon Quest IV is going to be wrapping up very soon. There is basically just the ending and then the post-game Chapter 6 that was added for the DS version, and then we'll be moving on to something new. Siege of Dragonspear, Baldur's Gate, I'm not sure how much is left in that. I think we're nearing the end, at least in terms of like number of maps kind of thing. But I do suspect that they are, going to pack in a whole lot of stuff to do there. So we probably have a fair bit left on that. Also, the next expansion for Stellaris has been announced. February 22nd, I believe it's when it's out. So somewhere around then, I should have a new series going up. Haven't really thought about what I will do with that. We'll have to see. There is still a campaign that I have sort of promised some people that I've not done yet. It may be that, or it may be something new. I don't know. That is going to be the Apocalypse expansion, and it is really, really overhauling the game in a lot of ways. Those who have been paying attention to Stellaris probably already know, so I'm not really going to, go over that in detail. But we will see it, when we actually get to that expansion. But that should just be a few weeks away, really. So, get hyped for that kind of thing. I think the Aladdin campaign is still going to be at least another month. It's turning out to be an incredibly, incredibly long campaign. But I kind of expected that. You have to start from, basically on the eastern edge of the map and get all the way to the western edge of the map, fighting through everyone else. So, it's a thing. Yeah, that's what's going on with the channel. To quickly talk about my vacation, it was fantastic. For those unaware, I was on vacation between January 6th and 24th. I visited Jordan for a few days, visited Petra, visited the Roman city of Jerash, the ruins, then went to Egypt on a tour. The tour was excellent. If you are considering yourself visiting Egypt, especially if you think that you're only going to go once in your lifetime, I would definitely recommend a tour, because they take care of a lot of the things. You get your, they do all the hotels and everything like that. So the tour that I went with was On The Go Tours. I'll try to put a link in the video description. They were pretty good, professional. The two tour guides that I was aware of, the one that I had, and then one with another group that had a slightly different itinerary than my group. One was an anthropologist, the other was an Egyptologist. So, they have good people. Quite fluent in English. So it was a really good tour. I would definitely recommend it for those considering such a trip. And to those wondering how dangerous it wasn't. I never was worried, although it was really disconcerting seeing people with assault rifles everywhere. But it was very safe. The problems in Egypt, Jordan doesn't really have too many violence issues. the problems in Egypt are primarily in some of the non-touristy areas, and basically the entire Nile is really safe. So, and that's where the tours go for the most part. And the Red Sea, those are resorts, so that's safe. Egypt takes that pretty seriously because before the revolution, tourism was essentially their number one export, i.e., foreign money coming in. Right now, it's number 2 after, I think, cotton. So the last 6 years have hit tourism in the country extremely hard. So it's a good time to go. Things are really cheap. To cite an example, I went to a little convenience store, got a couple cans of soda, a bag of chips, and a bottle of water, like a 16-ounce bottle of water, for $1.13 US. Yeah, that was 20 Egyptian pounds. That was kind of amazing. So it's a good time to go. Good bang for your buck for most European, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, that kind of countries. Probably China, Japan, Korea as well. So this is a pretty good time to go, I think. If you are considering it yourself, definitely go in January. The weather was quite mild. Aswan was the warmest area. It got up to around 80 a few times. Good breezes along the Nile. Otherwise, most of the time it was in the 60s in Egypt. Jordan was actually a little bit colder, 50s a lot of time. But the sun makes a big difference. I was definitely hot and sweaty in Petra, even though it was like 62 degrees out, because the sun was just beating down on me the whole time. So, I could not imagine going there in the summer, which I kind of assumed was their peak time, mainly because of my American-centric view of summer is when people do vacations here. But it does sound like January, February, December kind of area. Winter is their peak time for vacations. So, and it really was not that crowded in most of the places. In general, the Valley of the Kings was pretty crowded. The Egyptian Museum in Cairo was pretty crowded. What else? The pyramids, I guess, were kind of crowded. But it's a big, wide open area, so it's really hard to actually get crowded. But yeah. So in general, crowds were not too bad. And contrary to what some of my friends and family have commented about visiting certain parts of touristy Europe, never really worried too much about someone picking my pocket. I think because of the nature of Islam with regards to personal space, people tended to give you a little bit more personal space than I am used to in the United States and when I visited Europe. So it was a little bit more difficult for people to pick pockets, I think. Plus, it was probably a little bit easier to just try to get you to, buy stuff that was overpriced. So, which was definitely a thing at the markets at the entrances and exits to basically all the major tourist destinations. There's just stall after stall after stall of, souvenirs and tchotchkes and books and cloth and things of that nature. And they really, 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 really wanted you to buy stuff. But yeah, so it was a fantastic trip. Never was worried. I mean, like I said, I had people asking me, aren't you worried? You're going to Egypt. It's dangerous. Aren't you worried? And no, I wasn't. I wasn't at all. Even before there was an attack at a Sufi shrine in Sinai a couple weeks before I went, and that was in Sinai. That was, as is pretty typical for those types of attacks, it was Muslim on Muslim violence, and Egypt takes tourism safety very seriously. So if you're worried about it being a safe place for tourists, it's fine. Again, it will depend on where you go. Sinai is more dangerous. The western deserts close to the Libya border are more dangerous. But if you're sticking to the Egyptian sites along the Nile, the ancient Egyptian sites along the Nile, yeah, really could not be safer, except for traffic. If you come from, America, Canada, the UK, places like that, oh my God, the traffic. Lane markers, the dashed white lines, those are all just kind of suggestions. There are very few stop signs. There are very few traffic signals. Traffic just kind of flows, and people squish in where they can, which is extremely disconcerting when you're coming from, America, Canada, UK kind of places. I assume Australia and New Zealand as well. It's really disconcerting. When you want to cross a street, you jaywalk, because that's all there is, and you just kind of expect people to slow down for you, which is, like I said, really disconcerting. That was basically the only time that I felt worried for my safety, was crossing streets. But yeah, so if you're interested in the pictures that I took, guess I forgot to load that up, but whatever. So over on the AuldDragon Facebook page, go to the photos section, go to the albums, and I have... Not now, stupid thing. Unfortunately, if you're not signed in, you're going to get constantly poked like this. I don't use this browser for Facebook, so... I have albums for the Roman Theater in Amman, Jordan, Citadel Hill in Amman, Jordan, which was the site of the Ammonites, their capital. It was a Roman city of Philadelphia. Also, before that, there was a Greek settlement. And then, of course, Muslim occupation, stuff like that. So there's a lot of pictures of ruins and things there. Some pictures from the Jordan Museum and the Archaeological Museum on Citadel Hill. Jerash, Jordan. This is an ancient Roman city with some extremely well-preserved ruins. I cannot... this was kind of a not an on-the-spur part of the trip, but kind of, said, oh yeah, I heard a few things about some stuff there. Maybe we'll stop by, because we rented a car there, which I'm not sure that I'd recommend. Certainly not in Amman, but the closer we got to the trip, the more we learned about what was at Jerash, and it is an enormous archaeological site with massive ruins. It has the most well-preserved hippodrome in the Roman Empire. It has 2 theaters. It has an amazing colonnaded street, or amazing colonnaded streets that are in good condition. Tons and tons and tons of stuff of all sorts. So I got a lot of pictures there. I got a lot of pictures in Petra. Fantastic things to see there. Visited the Ma'in hot springs in Jordan. Didn't actually go into them. It's, kind of a little, resort area. You go into the hot springs. You can soak in the hot springs, which this is a waterfall, a hot spring waterfall. That water is hot. Was well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit at that time. Then once we got to Egypt, we visited St. George's Orthodox Church in Cairo, Cairo Citadel, and the Muhammad Ali Mosque. Then we visited Alexandria, and this part right here, starting right here, is the start of the tour, essentially. Visited the pyramids of Giza. I got some really good pictures there. There was a little thing where you could ride some camels out a little bit into the desert, like, I don't know, a quarter of a mile maybe, something like that. Someone I made friends with there, who was basically the only other person on the tour who was, you know, a knowledgeable Egypt geek, ancient, you know, history geek. So we totally geeked out together. We walked out and actually went beyond where the camels went, up on a little ridge, and got some excellent pictures of the pyramids. Then we visited the Saqqara necropolis, which is pretty close to Giza. Then went all the way down to the south, Philae Temple in Aswan. South even further from that, the Temple of Ramses II, Ramses the Great at Abu Simbel. And then we traveled up the Nile visiting locations, the Temple of Sobek and Horus at Kom Ombo, Temple of Horus at Edfu, and it wasn't actually scheduled on the tour, but because of the levels of the Nile, we actually stopped a little bit early, which gave us an opportunity to go to the Temple of Khnum at Esna. And this one was fantastic. This was not part of the schedule, you know, the itinerary on the tour, and it so should have been. Up to this point, you know, you're seeing these, you know, beige sandstone structures for the most part of Egypt, which you'll see a little bit of color here and there, but you don't quite realize just how colorful they would have been 2, 3, 4,000 years ago. But you get to this, and you can, yeah, it was like the first time we actually got to see some preserved colors in pretty good condition. Still faded, you know, 2,000 years plus, but it was amazing. Like, it was genuinely breathtaking. It was one of the first places that I went that really took my breath away. And yeah, I say that having stood, you know, and climbed up the first couple blocks of the Great Pyramid. But yeah, it was just amazing, the colors. I love preserved colors. Something similar happened at Petra, and it's just amazing to get the colors. I love it. Then we went up to Luxor and saw the Karnak Temple complex, which is like 2 square kilometers or something like that. It's an enormous site. Then the Luxor Temple at night. Then we went over to the Valley of the Kings, which was, you know, even more colorful than the than Esna, and that was just amazing. There was also a trip to the Valley of the Queens, which we were technically not allowed to take pictures at, and I followed that. There were some places where we were technically not allowed to take pictures, and I did so anyway. But I followed that because there were a lot of people, a lot of employees around, and I was a little bit worried about getting hit with a fine or getting my phone taken away. But I know that some other people did. However, the Valley of the Queens, the ones that we went into there, were even better than the Valley of the Kings, in my opinion. In particular, recently reopened was the tomb of Queen Nefertari, which was a massive 1,000 Egyptian pound price tag to get in, compared to like 50 and 100 at most of the other places. That was incredibly expensive. I think that comes out to $55, give or take, US. Totally worth it. The colors were, you know, like you can see in this picture, this is not as vibrant as these would have been originally. These are faded. The Tomb of Nefertari, almost completely unfaded, where the color is preserved. It was just absolutely amazing. Go ahead and Google Tomb of Nefertari, Nefertari, to see some of the pictures of it. It is just absolutely breathtaking. If you go to Egypt, check to see if it's open and go there. I cannot recommend that highly enough. It was amazing. So yeah, and that's one of the advantages of a tour. You get to see a lot of these in pretty quick succession, and they take care of all the travel arrangements. Which, if I go back to Egypt at this point, you know, I've done the tour. I'm not going to do a tour. I'm going to want more time at some of the sites, and figuring out travel is, I can tell, is going to be a pain. Anyway, then we went to the Temple of Hatshepsut, which was pretty awesome. the Cairo Museum, which is full of stuff. You can see I took more pictures there than anywhere else. And then that was the end of the tour. Also visited the Ibtulan Mosque, Geir Anderson Museum, Coptic Museum and Environs, which has some really nice stuff as well. And then just a collection of various pictures I took along the way of other stuff. Like the first one is a service dog on the first plane ride we took, which is kind of cute. Anyway, I got a lot of pictures. I took over 4,000 pictures. Most of them are up here, even ones that not so good. Some of the ones that I took I think were really good, but I over-relied on digital zoom way too often, so you know, there are some pretty artifacty images as well. But you know, I mean, it still gives you an idea of what things are like. So definitely check that out. Take a look at them. Feel free to post individual questions and comments on images if you want to, you know, learn a little bit more about something that I took a picture of. I will try to remember what it was if I, you know, can't remember right off the hand. So please do go through them, enjoy them. You know, have a trip to Egypt vicariously through me, and, you know, like I said, feel free to make comments and questions on the individual pictures. So that was my vacation. It was you know, absolutely fantastic, great time, and I cannot recommend such a trip highly enough. And it's a good time to go. Like I said, it's pretty cheap in Egypt right now. Jordan, not so cheap. 1 Jordan dinar is more than $1, but it's still not too bad, especially if you know, look for inexpensive hotels and things like that. Anyway, with the vacation stuff done, I posted a new deity over on my blog. An Aarakocra deity, Krocaa the Crimsonfeather. He was originally in Dragon issue number 124, right there, but didn't get reworked in Monster Mythology. So I had to do some tweaks to get him to fit in with a, you know, kind of make a mini Aarakocran pantheon. But you know, if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons deities, check that one out and let me know what you think. And of course, over on Patreon, I usually try to load these tabs up, but apparently I forgot. Things are going well. Haven't really made any changes, but as I mentioned back in January, there was a plan by Patreon to change how they charged supporters, and it turned out to be a really bad idea, and luckily they backed off that pretty quick. So I can still say that, you know, supporting me at the $1 reward level still really helps, and it's not going to charge you, they're not going to charge you extra like they were going to before. So, you know, if you can support me at that, you know, it's $12 a year. You know, a couple coffees at Starbucks, or, you know, a meal out or two at a fast food restaurant. And it really helps me. You know, if everyone who subscribed to me, watches regularly, did that, I'd be able to do this, you know, without having to have another job, which, unfortunately, my financial situation looks like I'm going to need to do. So, in the near future, I'm going to be working hard on getting a job. How that will affect video output, I don't know. I like to have my regular videos, and I really want to commit to that. But at this point, I don't know how that's going to affect things. So, the more you can help me out on Patreon, the better. It means a lot to me, and it really, really does keep the channel running. And speaking of that, it looks like we're going to have a couple more Patreon reward video series coming up in the nearish future, so look forward to those. And yeah, if you support me on Patreon, you can go through. I posted some videos while I was gone. I mean, not videos. I'm sorry, images, pictures from my vacation. While I was on vacation, every day I was posting one image on Facebook, Discord, Twitter, and then I would post a different picture. It was a unique picture with a bit more of a description about what was going on Patreon. So, you know, in situations like this, you know, I will definitely be doing something for Patreon. I'm also planning to have a video about my vacation with, you know, where I go into more depth and pull up some of the pictures that I really enjoyed. Either I think they turned out really well, or I really enjoyed taking them, and kind of talk about them and stuff like that. And when I do that, that will be a Patreon exclusive as well. So, you know, if you're interested in that, definitely support me at the $1 level or higher, and you'll get access to that. So, I want to thank all of my patrons again. Your names are scrolling down below. You guys mean a lot to me, and it really does help out the channel when you support me on Patreon. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in, you know, future Let's Plays and next month's update video. And, of course, Discord. You know, you can hop onto Discord to chat directly to me. The link is right here, and I suppose I should mention that if you want to get to the Facebook page, you can get to that just going to the About tab and then going down here. Also, you got the other links: Patreon, Discord, Twitter, Twitch, my blog, Steam, that sort of thing. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy all the pictures that I took, and I'll talk to you next month.